Hey, I'm fully hydrated today. Yeah.
Coach, addressing the elephant in the room, do you believe this deal was team friendly, and what qualities or achievements influenced this franchise's decision to make this investment?
Sorry, I'm gonna have to further. What deal are we speaking of?
The quarterback.
Oh, Tua's deal. Yeah. So it's whatever the deal's done, and that was kind of the hope. I'm fired up for the organization. Really fired up for Tua, and the work he's done to receive something like that. I think it's a cool validation for sure. And I think what's been cool about the process is, I think Coach Bevel's done an outstanding job with Tua to connect to the fact that, hey, whatever's going on, our focus is what we're going to do today in developing our game to, make the ground, make the gains that we expect in the offseason from Tua. So from my perspective, I'm happy, but I also expected it to get done, and now that it's done, it's about moving forward because it's maybe a handshake and a smile, but it's not a celebration. It's a cool point for the organization to move forward, but moving forward, we are.
Mike, like it or not, people will look at this and say, he's making X, therefore he should be playing at this level. They always equate the two. What makes you think that Tua is going to be able to handle that kind of heat?
Well, it's a pretty hot place to be a quarterback in the National Football League. And so you get a lot of reps at seeing how people respond to things. I think that is absolutely the nature that you should expect, and something that I know Tua is very, very aware of. And I think that's one of the cool things about sports is, Tua can know that, his teammates know that, and they already have pressure and expectations for themselves. So, I think, just as long as you acknowledge that, which, quite frankly, Tua's shown me that throughout the entire offseason, that he knows what time it is. And fortunately, him and all of his teammates can go out and determine, whatever the narrative is built upon by the way they play. So we focus on the way we play, understanding that we will always hear about the results, regardless of what they are. So why don't we try to move the needle on what those results are, so then we and focus on that and nothing else, because that's what our jobs are.
Mike, head coach success in the NFL is most often tied to the success of the quarterback. Your future might be tied to Tua's success. How do you feel about that?
I feel outstanding about the fact that I feel really good about the team. I feel really good about Tua, and I will always be determined by the success or failure of the team, as it should be. It's black and white. Your success or failure. It's cool about sports. There's a lot of variables in that, but that's not something I think you run from. You embrace it because you worry about what you can control, and then when things that you can't control happen, you adjust from there and can keep it moving. But there's plenty of people that could be a head coach of a team and lose a ton of games. Okay, you have to win and be successful, and that's I knew that the very first day I got the job, and so whatever is coming with whatever narrative and extracurricular thing doesn't really bother me.
Mike, not to put too fine of a point on it, but Tua's career got turned around when he got here, and his outlook on football, I think, turned around when he got here. Can you just speak to his personal journey from when you took over a player that was kind of questioning himself 3 years ago and now this?
I mean, what's the best way to say it? It's why one of the absolute main reasons you get into coaching. You hope that you can help people realize their best selves. So for him to be at this part of his journey with the growth, and it's that's why you do what you do, and it's also I think you're also in the process really making sure that whatever player that is getting compensated in whatever way, okay, you are trying to get their game to a point where they can be in that market to do that. And the second you're in that market to do anything, what comes from that, so you don't get surprised by it. So it is really, really cool for the organization. It's really cool for Tua. Something that has been a lot of man hours, a lot of investment. And what's cooler than that? I think a lot of people can get on board with that story. But it's hard for me to talk about it without the caveat that from the beginning, this was our objective was to continue growth and work together, and in that process, you get compensated, and then you get compensated, and what do you do with the organization, for yourself and for your family with this tremendous opportunity. So it's a cool moment that we are we have a couple high fives, and we're moving on to today's practice to really get after that. And that's one of the reasons why he has the contract he has, is because that's the type of person he is.
After the news broke,
does that give players more energy?
I think it does naturally. They have a lot to worry about each and every play, and they're focused on improving all sorts of things within their game and understanding their assignments and how they relate to their teammates. But there's nothing. The second you walk out the door, it feels different for practice, and I think it's a nice little reminder, because it's always after a long break. Remember the last time they were in a situation where they're doing what they do professionally and what they love. The last time they had fans to do it in front of was the season previous. So it's always a fun day that gets you some juice. You may see some guys lathered in stretch, because it's hard to come out of the doors of the facility and not get a brisk jog going with the momentum that's carried by the fans being here. So really excited for that. The team knows they're coming, and we should get some extra juice on top of the juice that we've already had each and every practice. It's been pretty good.
after the
That's coming on soon. Will that start giving you a good judgment on O-line, D-line?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of judgment that you can have without pads if you practice the right way. Having said that, there's always the caveat. There's always the asterisk of, okay, well, is that going to translate with the pads? And how does an edge, how does the tight end go after the edge player on a run play with pads on? Who's winning the point of attack? Football's played with pads. It's good evaluator and next natural evolution. So we have a lot of information, but the information is incomplete. You're right, without pads.
Like after the news broke, Tua posted a video and thanking you specifically. How does that make you feel? And also, is there anything that you told him that you'd be willing to share with us after he signed the deal?
So you're telling me he thanked me by name? I've never heard of this. For the record, positive stuff I would love to hear about. Yeah, it's humbling. It's humbling. For me, it's really cool to be a part of somebody's journey, and for them to see that you're a positive impact on that. But immediately, it's hard for me to really accept that fully without wanting to just babble all the people that are instrumental in his process and development. First and foremost, him, but you're talking about his position coach, Darrell Bevel. He's those guys are thick as thieves, and I'm really proud of how he's been a part of that too. So it's hard for me to accept that. I appreciate it, but it was a lot of people working together, and first and foremost, that's Tua doing it. And I think that's probably the hardest part. Would you guys agree? No. I can tell you the same stuff I tell Tua. Will you do it? Okay. Well? Oh, okay.
Coach, on the deep shot to Tyreek the other day in practice, we saw Jalen go up to Tua afterwards, almost mimic the play action fake that he executed there. I'm curious your perspective on the importance of ball handling for the quarterback and how Tua drills that to make it a strength.
Well, that was a very high-level observation. You're very right on that. And that, really, if I'm you guys and I'm observing practice, those types of things would fire me up the most, because what that means, if you have the players on your team that have had that have the most footing in the league, the star players, when they are communicating about what they just saw and being able to share how certain things affect how Tua's footwork affects Jalen, how Jalen, what he's seen. For everyone, that's a win. That's also a tone setter for the entire team. When you're players of that caliber, those conversations about high level intricacies about the quarterback's drop and about vision zoning players and all these things. These are conversations that are coming up a lot because what I see are players more invested than they've ever been, and I've seen plenty of investment here. So all the things play into trying to be elite at your job. Quarterback footwork for the back end. If you're trying to get turnovers, is pretty important. If you're trying to get PBUs, it's pretty important. And those are things that are beyond their playbook responsibility. You can only get real gains in your game if you have 22 players really going after it in a game-like fashion, so you can get game-like reps.
Mike, going back to Giselle's question a minute ago, is there anything more you can share with us on your first interaction with Tua after you learned of the deal, knowing how close you two were? I imagine it was a pretty cool moment.
Yeah, it was, to say the least. I think I'm of unassuming stature. But when I get enough adrenaline and I'm pretty excited, I can surprise some people with my leverage and my strength, and my hug surprised him. I can tell because he spilled his coffee.
So this means that you knew before practice started.
Absolutely not. We have players we have players attacking the day to the level of early afternoon coffees are like, a dime a dozen. Okay, that moment, I wasn't playing on that, but it's definitely something you remember. That's just how it's hard not to have a lot of time pass through your mind really fast, but it was something cool to share, and he was coordinated enough not to spill the coffee that I spilled onto me, so I was fired up about that as well.
Him up with the hug. Is that what
I
you're
basically suplexed him, and then Chris was very mad. No, it was just a leverage form fit, nothing to the ground. We didn't violate the CBA, and we're good.
Well, I know we're still talking about Tua, but I do want to address Anthony Walker. Obviously, with David Long being sidelined, he's playing a more prominent role in the defense. What have you seen from him to make him an orange jersey player in the first week?
Well, he first and foremost, very rare that I get feedback so early in the off season from so many people about, I effing love this guy. Okay, won his teammates over just by how he goes about business in the off season, and then you take that to in terms of you're developing the defense and developing camaraderie. When you have a player, that is as bought in as he is, and a connectivity that he has with Joe Barry and Anthony Weaver, he's been able to really execute some fundamentals and techniques at such a high level, take an Indy to team, that he's really helped the rest of the group in a couple of situations where a lot of times as players, you hear it from the coach, you see it one time from a teammate, and then it's able to be replicated. So he's pushing the envelope in his game while also bringing others along with him, he is had I gave him a hard time just today. He's had his hands on multiple passes, but right now he's just the first pick for the beach volleyball team because his bump set spike is leading the league. But he's going to come when being around the ball as much as he is. He's going to start getting some interceptions soon, and you'll see a lot of teammates cheering, which I think is very telling.
We've seen Jalen and Bradley work out on their own in their recoveries. Mm-hmm. What can you tell us on maybe how they're doing their individual recoveries? We have some great news. There's been no setbacks. I hate to do this, but there's partial credit due to the fact there hasn't been timelines set on them, so they haven't overpressed. But they I'm very, very proud of them because first and foremost, I've spoke at length. They're the biggest challenge and concern that I have is that they try to get back too soon, and that's just natural for their competitiveness and how they love football. But they are a fixture after they get their work in, after they get their movements done, where they're pressing uncharted territory every day. They are a big part of our practice every day, and that's because they are out there. I can always tell where they're at in their rehab because how vibrant their cellies are. Their celebrations are. They are a fixture of the team while being hindered from playing. It is very hard to do. Only special people can move the entire team's needle based upon how
how present they are and how invested they are in their teammates. But they are in a cool spot, helping the team as they work their way back on the field.
Adrian Brewer, what do you like about his fit?
Who's that?
With Adrian Brewer,
Mhm.
what do you like about his usage from that center? And are there any concerns about some of the snapping?
Oh, so really fired up about Brew and what he's gonna be able to contribute to our offensive line. He's done a tremendous job, assimilating into the group and really taking to some of the things that we ask players to do that may be a little unique based upon their history. And he's a guy that can be a weapon in the run game. And I think he sees himself that way. We see it that way. The way he comes off the ball, how lightning quick he is, and the leverage he plays with. And I think, that I've become like more wise in my coaching years, and snap issues used to just trigger me to all end. Now the process, I still get triggered, but it's really fast because it is a part of the process that you do have to understand when you have quarterbacks and centers and guards playing with different people at the beginning of the camp, and you're using multiple snap counts and you're going against multiple looks. It is something that I'm used to. You wish it didn't happen, but the main thing is you want to see some improvement and development as the time goes on. If you have the same issues with the same players continuously, that's when it's a huge red flag. Otherwise, you're just making sure that the issues that you had are addressed and worked on, and then hopefully those are corrected. We just want them corrected early. Thank you.